I'm Cindy Bertram. Thanks for joining me today on Good Ship Happens. And yes, there's a reason why I'm wearing blue today, because what people might not be aware of is actually yesterday, June 8th, was actually World Oceans Day. It takes place every year on June 8th. More about World Oceans Day. I love the ocean, of course, as you know. That's why I've got my background photograph. But the thing is, with World Oceans Day, it was actually introduced by the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, actually in 1992, and then it officially became recognized by the United Nations in December of 2008. So it's held on June 8th every year. And once again, World Oceans Day actually celebrates the value of oceans. And every time I think about oceans, it does make me smile, of course. That's why I tell people that's another reason why you need to take a cruise to be on the ocean, because good ship happens. Yes. But just wonderful things as far as celebrating Oceans Day in different ways. Cruise lines really ramped up things, what they do, share what they're doing as far as conservation. I'll share more about that too. But once again, just wonderful things that were taking place yesterday to celebrate World Oceans Day. For instance, like I said, different cruise lines were celebrating different things. And once again, a focus that cruise lines are doing really has been in the efforts of sustainability. And they have really fantastic sustainability measures that they've been doing. That includes incorporating cleaner fuels across their ships, also being able to have their ships actually powered by liquefied natural gas is one. It's one of the most efficient fuels and cleanest to really minimize their impact on the environment too. And their first with MSC Cruises, their MSC World Europa just marks a milestone because it's their first LNG operated, compelled operated cruise ship. And then something else came this week too. I'll share more about that later. Was another cruise line. They just christened their ship this week, which is great. And once again, what people don't realize is cruise lines really jumped in as far as sustainability. They got rid of plastic straws, for instance. You don't see them. They don't give out plastic straws anymore. They really have gotten into high-level areas as far as what they do with leftover food, whatever, and also make sure that certain things like plastic is not thrown in the ocean. And I really commend them more than ever. But once again, just another way to really share what cruise lines are doing now, because once again, cruising is really moving into a really, really fantastic, sustainable future. And it was wonderful to find out what different cruise lines are doing in their updates too, because first, another good thing too is we've got a ship that was just christened this week, was the MSC Eurobia. And she is actually the first net zero commission operated ship too. And that's fantastic because once again, people don't realize what they're doing. And they did their actual naming ceremony on the MSC Eurobia this week earlier. It's actually, I think, on June 8th. What they did was they named the ship over in their naming ceremony took place in Copenhagen, Denmark. And the ceremony also included their traditional patrimony and paid homage to their very friendly MSC Eurobia. And it is really the cruise ship that is really the most energy efficient. Why? Because it is actually powered by liquefied natural gas, the cleanest, as I mentioned, marine fuel currently available to date. And also, she's achieved net zero GHG emissions journey when she sailed from St. Nazaire to Copenhagen for her christening. And like I said, this is a very, very wonderful thing that cruise lines are doing. And with MSC Cruises kind of leading the way too. They all are, believe me, but MSC Cruises with the MSC Eurobia, I mentioned that she's doing some wonderful things as far as her energy. Something else as far as the naming ceremony, MSC Cruises always selects Sophia Loren, the actress, as their godmother. And Sophia Loren actually did christen the MSC Eurobia. And so at the naming ceremony, which just took place, as I mentioned, I think it was yesterday, but it took place and then included, of course, live entertainment, speeches, um, the maritime practice of actually cutting the ribbon to break a bottle of champagne over the bow of the ship. And of course, guests who were there actually given an opportunity to enjoy a gourmet dinner, watch performances, and that really gave people, the guests, to really get a glimpse of what the new ship's design is and her breathtaking guest experiences too. And this summer, the MSC Urbia is going to be sailing to Northern Europe. Of course, first sailor just departed, and she'll have 7-night voyages from Germany to Copenhagen, and then on to the Norwegian fjords. And then they will include trips to other places too. And with the MSC Urbia, she's actually the 22nd vessel within the MSC Cruises fleet. And she has 2,419 staterooms. She's actually named after the goddess Eurybia, who actually controlled winds, weather, and constellations to a master of the waters. So, I mean, how exciting to see a ship like that debut, plus being the first really, really, I think, green natural, as far as with her LNG operated for the fuel things too, which is great. And something else came up too with the MSC Urbia. They just announced something else too, which is great to share too. What they're doing is they actually did partner with this Global Youth Tourism Summit. And what they did was they actually partnered with the Global Youth Tourism Summit, which took place, the foundation, MSC Foundation, which is part of the MSC Group, which owns MSC Cruises, the new cruise line coming out this summer, the Explorer Journeys, and also their foundation, plus they have the container shipping company. But with the MSC Foundation, what they're doing is they're actually going to be providing several education courses related to the sustainability aboard the MSC Urbia. And as a result, they've got a specially equipped MSC Foundation Youth Lab that's added to the ship, which is great. And with this, it's so exciting because once again, to really do that in a different way, you don't see cruise lines doing that all the time, but they are, and people need to be aware of this too. But like I said, the MSC Foundation Executive Director mentioned that they're really proud to really have this tremendous success with their Global Youth Tourism Summit, and which was taking place in Sorrento, Italy. And what they're doing is they're extending their partnership and to really promote youth empowerment and sustainability education. And so with the new MSC Foundation Lab on the MSC Urbia, they're going to be offering a really innovative venue for children and teenagers to really engage in sustainability and focus activities. And their custom design program is called A Sustainable Future in Our Next Generations. So I ran across this and I thought, this is really fantastic, because when you think about taking a cruise, of course, it's fun, different things to do, entertainment, places to go and explore. But with this new program, actually having sustainability courses on board, it really, really stands out in great ways. And with MSC Cruises, keeping the younger generations entertained on a cruise ship means listening to them and really taking real note of what their wishes are too. And once again, they had some people that reached out to them about maybe doing these topics on board their ships. So once again, it's another way that MSC Group is really sustaining to really, really dedicated and focusing on a significant impact on major challenges with the humanity is really facing. And once again, it really goes back to what they're doing, because with the MSC Foundation, they really focus on the environment, which includes marine conservation efforts, education, community support, and also emergency relief. So once again, with this, I really think it stands out in a different way, and people don't know, they need to be aware of this more than ever. And so I want to share that today too. Mark, did you have any questions about that? Because those are two really exciting things with the MSC Urbia being christened, of course, but also this new program. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt about that. As you were talking and thinking about all the things that were going on in the cruise industry and everything, I know a lot of people are very much into the sports world. You know, there is definitely a NBA final that is going on and a number of other things. And what I did not realize was that there are people that will sometimes do interesting things, including sports related things on a cruise. So even though they're there enjoying the fine food, the art, and a number of other things, there are times that people might be doing bowling games or even basketball games on the cruise as well. So that was one of the things that I ran across and everything, because I do know that folks are sometimes interested in sports in a variety of ways, and they may be even participating in sports while they are on the cruise itself. So I was just wondering if you had ever gone on a cruise and seen people either playing cricket or bowling or basketball or a number of other sports that are out there, because I do know that cruises are like a little mini village, a mini city, and a lot of the things that go on in the regular cities can also take place on the cruise as well. So I'm actually going to bring up a shot of a young kid that was shooting some hoops, as they say, during the cruise and all along those lines. But as I'm trying to get that loaded up and he's trying to take his own sweet times, I was wondering if you could share maybe some of your own stories of people that have done sporting events on the various cruises that you have been part of.
Oh, yes. We can do so many wonderful things, and it's growing like crazy because, once again, even cruising before, there were fun things to do. But one thing I've seen too is a big trend now is pickleball.
Pickleball, yes.
You can actually do pickleball on cruise ships. They're all adding pickleball. I've never played pickleball myself. I might fail because I really didn't do good as far as tennis, but they have pickleball on board most cruise lines right now more than ever. Also, they have little mini golf courses too, which is great. Something else is bowling, of course. Cruise
Okay,
lines
that
have their own
bowling.
bowling alleys.
Right.
They do that too. I kind of failed bowling as a kid. So I quit bowling. I mean, my top score with bowling was at 49, which is really bad. So I quit bowling. But once again, there's so many things you can do on a cruise ship, which is great too. And like I said, with pickleball, I know with Royal Caribbean, they got the flow rider. You actually take and you go up and down. They've got a really beautiful area. It's called the flow rider.
Oh, wow.
It's really fun. Yes. I mean, people are aware of it. And also, if you want to do, I can't remember what they call it. I've not done it. I am a little afraid of heights myself. I mean,
Oh, the roller coaster.
well, yeah, that's one thing too. And also with Norwegian Cruise Line, I think we can actually drive those cars too around. I didn't do it, was on the pre-christening one of their ships, but still fun to do. But I thought, no, I don't want to hit another car. I mean, you're very safe, believe me. But the point is, there's so many things you can do too. For instance, with Royal Caribbean, they've got a rock climbing wall.
Oh, wow.
Yes, rock climbing walls, which is over outside, of course. But once again, I'm a little scared about that. But
You're a little bit worried about that. You weren't going to try to rock
no, no,
climb
no,
while
no,
you
no,
on the
no,
cruise.
no, 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 no,
No
no.
rock,
I
no
watch
rock,
people, I
no
watch
no
people doing it, but not really a rock climber. I
no
want to be
rock
safe.
climbing for you. You are not going to try
No,
to rock
mm-mm,
climb at all and everything.
no.
You mentioned Sophia Loren. She's an amazing lady. She's an amazing actress. Still
Yes,
doing this amazing stuff. Still very much of a beauty, even at her present age and everything along those lines. So I was
right.
just wondering if you ever had the opportunities to meet or be at one of those cruise openings where Sophia Loren was at, and your own kind of thoughts about this amazing icon of entertainment and amazing icon in the world of definitely movies, music, and a number of other things as
Yes,
well. So I was wondering if you had the experience of either meeting her or maybe talking to her or at least being in the same presence as her and everything. So I was wondering if you had had
yes,
that experience and what that experience was like.
right. I haven't met her physically. I did beg one time my friend Rick about something. He was president of MSC Cruises, now he's chairman of their ESA division. He couldn't do it, but he's busy. But the thing is, I've been at several christenings where she actually christened the ship,
Mm.
which is great. When I was at the seaside, she was christening the ship, which is great. That was a couple of years ago. Then they've got the seashore and the seaside and some other ships, but she's always there as a godmother, which is great. She's an amazing person and just very, very elegant. And she just christened, of course, their new ship, the MSC Urbia, last night, which is
Well,
great. And it's a tradition with MSC Cruises. The family, they only select Sophia Loren to be their godmother. Because one thing comes up too is a lot of times people don't realize, but with cruise lines, they do pick different people to be the godmother of their ship, and usually they don't have a godfather. One exception was actually when Norwegian Cruise Line actually chose Pitbull to christen one of their ships. I was there. It was fun. They finally had a godfather.
Okay.
But now with Carnival Cruise Lines, their new ship coming out, their Venezia, is actually they took over from their sister company Costa Cruises, but it has an Italian theme, and it's going to be christened next week on June 14th. And they're the ones that selected Jay Leno to be their godfather.
Wow.
Next week, yes. But how fun, because once again, it's just such a great honor to pick out different people to christen the ships. And usually they're godmothers, women, not godfathers. We actually now have two different godfathers.
Yep. Leno and Pitbull. So we got two
Yes,
different.
and Pitbull was fantastic. I mean, I was there. It was outside during the day, and he christened the ship. And the fun thing is, then at the end, after they have to they do this champagne thing too. And Frank Del Rio, the chairman, was there too with him. And after they did the christening, of course, they did the bump the hands kind of fun thing too. And then Pitbull actually did a half-hour performance for us.
Wow, he did a half-hour performance?
Yes, he performed for a half hour. It was amazing.
That sounds like that would be thoroughly amazing to see Pitbull perform at half an hour.
He's amazing. And he sang different songs. It was so energetic. I mean, some people we were so excited trying to take videos, but there were so many people jumping up and down. It was really great because, like I said, to first have him be a godfather, and then for him to actually perform half-hour concert after the christening, it was fantastic. I was just so excited to be there too. And they do wonderful things too.
Yeah, you mentioned Leno, and I know that a lot of times there are singers and dancers there, but I'm thinking that on some of the ships there are different specialty acts. I do know that there are sometimes ventriloquists as well as magicians, and I want to say that there are even some cruises that are dedicated to comedy. As a matter of fact, I know there's some comedy cruise ships and comedy cruise tours, but I was wondering if you've ever been on one of those cruises and had the pleasure of being a comedy show on a cruise ship, because I do know that there are comedy shows and even some cruises that are centered around comedy. So I was wondering if you'd had the pleasure of doing any of those and how they were, if you did them, and was it the same thing as mainland comedy, where sometimes the participants, or in this case the cruise voyagers, get to be a part of the joke, depending on the comedian?
Well, sometimes they'll pull guests up too on the stage, which is really fun too. They're all different, but once again, it's good. The entertainment is so much fun. It's just a lot of different choices, which people are not aware of, because they partner with different people. I mean, famous people come on board, and it's just part of the cruise industry itself. Because once again, the entertainment you get on board the cruise ships is complimentary.
Mm-hmm.
Even like their Broadway show productions. I mean, they have Broadway show productions all the time. They're launching new ones at different cruise lines. But the point is, when you go to another location, I'm not trying to badmouth Las Vegas, but when you go to Vegas and you want to see a show, what do you pay?
It's pretty much up there, unless you go to one of the off Main Street or off the main strip shows, but it's definitely not exactly cheap.
It's not. And the things what people don't realize is on board cruise ships, they have the entertainment is part of what you're getting on board the ships, which is great. They have Broadway productions, just amazing. And one time they launched on Norwegian, Norwegian Cruise Line, they actually launched, what was this, the Broadway production with Frankie Valli?
Oh, Jersey Boys?
Yes. They actually, what they did was, I was at a cruise conference and they did a press conference. Okay. We just went to press conference, we were kind of big. And all of a sudden what they do is they have the gentlemen who are part of the Jersey Boys production. They came to the front and they sang. What was really even more fun is because what they did was Andy Stewart, who was president of Norwegian Cruise Line at the time, they pulled him up there. They gave him a red jacket and they had him come up and sing and dance with him. In about 15 minutes, like about 20 seconds, he says, I can't do this. I'm not a singer. It was really fun. But they actually did a performance at the cruise conference themselves too, which is great. But they've got great productions. People are not aware of it. And you see wonderful shows. They have different places where you can actually more intimate type of performances too. If you want to karaoke, you can do that too separately. But just so many options out there as far as entertainment. Because at one point too is, I'm trying to think what else. I know with another cruise line, they actually did their own version of Second City, which is great.
Oh, they did their own version of Second City?
Yeah, Second City people on board for a while too, which is great. But once again, there's so many options out there. I mean, if you want to relax, you can relax. But the point is, there's so many options as far as entertainment. It's fantastic because, once again, a good way to really kind of enjoy what you're doing on the ship too.
Yeah, you can definitely enjoy it. And like you said, there's all kinds
Right,
of enjoyment that you can have on the ship and everything. And
right,
some of it is stuff that you might enjoy in real life as well, or not just real life because it's all real life, but that you might enjoy in the mainland or on the
right,
dry land and all in that space that you can also enjoy while you're out there in the cruise lanes and all
right.
in that kind of space. So that is something that folks may want to take into consideration as they're going to these different things and all along those lines. I did promise you a minute ago, so we're going to actually watch a young kid that was getting his basketball shots in during a cruise and watch the
Yeah.
reaction of the people. And it's just a very short video, and I may bring up one about bowling as well. But let's watch this young kid as they get in a little bit of shots, and even watch the fans as they watch him. Who knows? He may be the next star, the next Jamal Murray, or the next
Right.
Joker in the basketball and arrow. But he was doing it on a cruise ship. So let's check it out. Get up on the floor, dancing all night long. Get up on the floor, dancing to the break of dawn. Get up on the floor. That was actually some people playing soccer. They said
Oh,
football, but this is the one with the young kid and the basketball. There may be future for him and everything because he definitely hit
yes.
both of the shots, and they were not exactly short shots that he was hitting and all in that kind of way. So, like I said, he was doing that on the cruise that you had mentioned, and this one was taken a couple of years ago. But I think I'll let people check this one out. But there is a video that I've got that actually talks about some of the bowling that can go on in these things as well. So we're going to check out a little bit of the bowling that goes on or can go on. And like I said, this was from a few years ago and all in that space. But let's check out what folks have got if they are doing bowling on a cruise ship. Because like I said, you might go to a cruise ship and maybe you want to get some bowling in as well. So I've got a video that talks about that bowling and that whole bowling journey. So let's see about this particular bowling trip and what folks have got to say in that regards, because bowling might be
Right.
something fun that you want to do, and it can also be some very slick bowling alleys. So let's check this out. That was a slick looking bowling alley, and apparently that was on
Right.
a cruise ship and all along those lines. So they were having that little slick opportunity to get some bowling in on that particular cruise ship and all along those lines. As a matter of fact, I believe that was off of the Norwegian Epic and all
Yes, it
in that
was.
kind of space. So that was the
And
Norwegian
it's
Epic
actually,
one.
yeah, I was actually on the Epic. But that was when the reason it was called Oceans is because Kevin O'Shea was actually the president of Norwegian Cruise Line at that point, too, I think,
Oh,
which
wow.
is great. Yeah, but once again, bowling is one thing you do. Like I said, as a little kid, I just stopped bowling. I just couldn't hit the ball right. I just, I failed, but I tried. But once again, something else that's really, really big now, too, on different cruise lines is zip lining.
Yep.
If you want to zip line, go zip lining. I haven't done that. Like I said, I'm a little scared of heights. It's very safe because once again, they have you very, very safe. You start from one spot and then actually zip line over usually the like a pool area, their garden park, that kind of stuff. Royal Caribbean does that. I'm just very careful because I really don't. I mean, you're not going to fall, but the point is, I'm careful about heights, you know.
You know, a lot of people is careful about heights and everything. I've actually got a longer video about something that you can do if you're going on one of these trips, because there is definitely gyms that are on there. There are
Yes.
also sports cars and arcades and a number of other things that are taking place at a number of these gyms, and all in that kind of space that are going on. So this is a longer video that I've got that will actually share some of the things that were going on at MSC Meraviglia. So this is one that I've got that
Right.
can share some of the things that you can do in that space as well. So maybe some folks may get some ideas of things that they want to participate in that they had not thought about participating in by watching this lovely video as well. So we're going to bring that one up and check it out. It's about a 3-minute video, and then there might be some other things that we can talk about that are going on in the cruise industry as well. But this might be something that folks may be interested in checking out, and all along those lines. So we're going to try to pull this up and see if we can't get this one up, because I think it talks about a number of these things that we've talked about that can be fun to watch, observe, and that people may be wanting to do when they're on these cruises, in addition to eating all, and I do mean all because it is a lot of that delicious food that exists as
Yes.
well. But yeah, if you're into the gym life and you're a gym rat and you want to get your gym workout on, you can do that on the cruise. You can also do some of these arcades and other things that are out there. So let's check out what this particular one is all about, and maybe it'll give some people some ideas, because unfortunately with COVID, we do know that some of us put on some unnecessary weight and unnecessary pounds that we got to try to figure out a way to do with the exercise, and we can even do that while enjoying some vacation time. So let's check out this particular video.
The gym, the Meraviglia, yes, and lots of people chilling around. Pretty fit bunch, huh? The Italians. Maybe about 20 machines. Yep. You gotta sign up for the gym right here. And 13 not allowed. Jump. Gym guidelines opens at 6, closes at 10. Yes. And from just outside the gym, you see these virtual games arcade. Let's go in and take a look what we have inside here. So games room, some games machines. Yes. Yes, yes. Drive type. Shoot type. Price €1.50. 1.5. Yeah. 1.5 euro. Battle Bot Star Wars. And some table games and some drive games again. Same price, €1.50. That's all we have in the games room. Not very big, but nevertheless, still a games room. Nobody playing. Just after the games room, you can see these machines to go and play to pick stuff. We play games room, and let's keep walking there and see what we can find. So we got a live stream, kids bar, and now you have what else? Playing kind of football. That's pretty cool. Really very cool, you know. Big venue on a ship like this, which is for the kids just now. And yeah, the play, and yes, MSC Cruises. You get a car. Woohoo! Ciao. They also have a flight simulator over here. Right? And there's a bowling alley over there. Full lane kind of bowling alley. And over here is a very nice MSC's F1 Sport Car. MSC F1 Ciao. Nice.
As that gentleman was observing from overseas, there was all kinds of things going on, even a flight simulator and even a car and a number of other things that he was observing that were there on that MSC There you go. So
It's,
definitely
it's, it's actually pronounced Meraviglia.
Meraviglia. Thank you.
Yes, I was actually on board the Meraviglia. They
Wow.
flew me to New York because what they did was the ship had been sailing over in Europe. What they decided to do is they actually repositioned the ship over to New York City, and she's now sailing year round out of New York.
Wow.
And they
Did you
flew me
run
down.
across any of those activities when you were there? Did you go
Right.
bowling? Did
So
you
we're on the
go?
ship, actually on the ship just for the day, but it's great to really experience it because we did little tastings of the different restaurants. And they flew me in on April 21st. The ship had just arrived that morning, and we're on the ship all day and evening. And we had a chance to do little tastings of the different restaurants, which is great. And then we actually had a time to actually experience one of their shows. They've got this carousel lounge, and they had a Houdini show on board, which is phenomenal.
Wow.
And the carousel lounge is actually kind of circular, which is great. But also, it's great too is that with the lounge, the chairs are not real high up. Because sometimes you get into some of the theaters that are so high up, but the point is we're really close, and it was just amazing. It was actually singing, entertainment, amazing, fantastic show. Honestly, it was just like so chilling to see that show. Also, then later on, we had a chance to have dinner in the MSC Yacht Club. With the MSC Yacht Club, it's one of the things that MSC Cruises started with, I think, 2010 with their ships, is a special area. And what you do is a special area. You pay more, but you have your own private area. You have balcony staterooms. You have key card access to get into the Embassy Yacht Club. You have your own butlers.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Also, you have your own pool area at the top. And you're the only ones that get to the pool area. And it's a special pool area. They have butlers helping you, whatever you want. They have food up there. And we have our own restaurant. And we had our one sea lounge. And I wrote about it later when I got back because the title of my article was called Inside the Embassy Yacht Club. Yes, the butler did it.
The butler did it. Speaking of the butler doing it, would you like to go on a tour? I think we might have done it before, but
Yes.
it's been a minute of the Europa. So there is actually
Yes.
a tour that we can go on of the MSC World Europa. So
Yes.
it is a 3-minute tour. So let's go on a 3-minute virtual tour of this particular ship and see what they are all about. And maybe this will give some people some inspiration to go on a cruise, as we like to say. And as definitely Cindy coined the phrase, good ship happens. So we're going to find out what happens on this particular cruise as we go on this virtual tour of the World Europa. So let's go on a virtual tour.
Okay. Beautiful. I mean, there's so many options out there, which is great too. And you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do. If you want to relax, you've got areas to relax. If you want to do things, they've got so many different options during the day, even evening too. And then, of course, when you get off the ship, it's just good to really
Yeah.
explore.
Yeah. Hey, Cindy, you were saying that. I was just thinking about something, and I've got a longer video that might talk about that as well. But I've had the pleasure of having some friends of mine, including some that unfortunately have passed away, that were architects and building designers and all of that space. And as I was seeing how much of a mini city a cruise is and everything, I'm thinking that this is a job that cruise architects and cruise engineers and others have to be very much involved in, because I mean, you're basically putting in a bowling alley, you're putting in some cases almost many shopping centers, and you're doing a number of other things that are part of the whole building of the cruise ship and all in that kind of way. So I was just wondering your thoughts about that, if you've had the pleasure of ever meeting any of the designers of these cruise ships, because as I was watching that tour, and I was going like, wow, that's a whole lot of stuff that they built in the cruise and all in that kind of way. And I did find a video that actually talks about the crazy process of building a cruise ship. I don't know if you want to watch this video or not, but it might be fascinating to see what people have to see as they learn about the notion of building a cruise ship, because we see these fantastic wonders of modern technology in the sense that they've been built, and they have been built in such a powerful way and all in that space. But I don't know that everybody understands all that goes into building a cruise ship. I've never built one, so I know I don't understand what goes into it, but I'm sure other people would be like me. They'd probably be like, whoa, that's a big ship and that's got a lot of moving parts in it and all in that kind of way. So how do they go about building these fantastic ships and all along those lines? So if it's okay with you, it is your show, and all in that space, I would love to show people the crazy process of building a cruise ship.
Oh, that's great, because it is an art in itself. It takes a couple of years to build a ship. You can't build a ship within a year.
No.
And the thing is, there are so many safety protocols, even going what they're doing too, as far as going to net emissions, because the cruise industry, CLIA, the Cruise Lines International Association, has really set a deadline to meet these net zero emissions by 2050. But most cruise lines are really ramped up on this themselves, which is great. But once again, it really kind of goes back to how they built ships before. They were smaller. This ships, of course, are a lot bigger. But once again, they really are focusing on sustainability. But it definitely is an art and a talent to be part of a company that actually builds cruise ships.
I would imagine that's got to be an amazing process, an amazing thought, just to go through that whole process, because I can only imagine what it would be like to try to build this wonder of modern technology, as I just said, because it is so many different elements. I mean, you got to build not just one kitchen, but you got to build multiple kitchens. You got to build a number of other things to go into the cruise ship, including the various places to stay and all of that. But right now, let's check out this video as they are going to share with us how this thing is done. So this is called the crazy process of building a cruise ship.
Yes.
Often called floating cities, cruise ships have become massive, not just in sheer size, but also in cost of construction. The Allure of the Seas, for instance, one of the largest cruise ships in the world, cost $1.5 billion to build, making it as expensive as the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, the world's largest skyscraper. But unlike the Burj Khalifa, which took 6 years to build, the Allure of the Seas was constructed from start to finish in just 11 months and 18 days. So how is a megastructure of this scale actually built? And how do you go from this to this in just 11 months? That's exactly what we'll be looking at today. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing for more weekly traveling content. And without further ado, let's get straight into it. It all starts with a sketchboard. Cruise lines initially come up with a very rough design of the new ship, including its size, number of passengers, and certain unique features they want to have on board. With the proposal in hand, they then make their way to shipbuilding companies to see which one would be the best fit for the vessel. As there are only 4 main cruise ship builders in the world, there's not much to choose from anyways, and the final decision usually comes down to logistical constraints such as price, speed, and the size of the shipyard. Once the initial order is made and design choices have been finalized, we get to the steel cutting ceremony. This is when the shipyard first starts molding steel into thousands of smaller pieces that will end up making up the main structure of the ship. The festive ceremony marks the start of about 6 months of steel cutting and is usually when cruise lines start increasing their PR efforts and first release details about onboard features to the public. Next comes the exciting part. About 1 year before passengers start to board a vessel for its maiden voyage, we have the keel laying or coin laying ceremony. This is officially the start of the ship's construction, and it's when smaller pieces start to be assembled to make the lower hull of the ship. By tradition, this is also when the cruise line puts a gold coin into the lowest block of the vessel, symbolizing good luck for everyone that shall sail on her. At this point, the construction usually occurs in 2 separate buildings. In one area, engineers are starting to weld and wire up pieces of steel into small sections. 8 of these sections are then combined to make a so-called block. You can imagine it as being a fireproof metal box the size of about 4 tennis fields. Then these blocks are transported to the main dry dock area, where they are assembled and put together by a large crane, 1 layer at a time, resembling somewhat of a jigsaw puzzle or a Lego building. Now, apart from these metal boxes, the shipyard also installs the ship's engines and power tanks, and some overhead wiring, plumbing, and ventilation. But that's about it. While the exterior is starting to resemble a real cruise ship, the interior remains mostly empty and dull. Now, you might wonder, where are all the cabins? How are they possibly going to add thousands of staterooms into this metal structure? Well, cabins are all individually pre-assembled offshore in a very much industrialized factory. Every cabin, essentially a numbered metal box, gradually gets equipped with a bathroom, a bed, a sofa, a TV, and all the other amenities you can imagine. A crane then actually lifts each fully furnished cabin up and slots it into place one by one. Pretty impressive, right? And because each cabin is literally a metal box, it makes its walls and ceilings magnetic. Now, this has 2 purposes. Firstly, as each cabin is made out of metal, this reduces the risk of a fire hazard, something you don't want to have on a ship. But also secondly, as cabins are magnetic, it helps slot them in more easily and removes almost all space between cabins' walls. This is essential, as even a small miscalculation or fraction of an inch of extra space between cabins can lead to huge problems. For one, the wiring and plumbing might no longer fit the position of the cabin. But also another cabin might altogether no longer fit into this block, which would be quite an expensive debacle. Once the cabins are hopefully correctly inserted, it's time to furnish the common spaces. Truckloads of tables, chairs, and carpets start filling up the ship's interior, finally making it look like a real cruise ship. Meanwhile, the exterior is also getting its finishing touches. For one, the ship's hull gets painted and the vessel's name gets inscribed. The azipods and other navigational features get installed on the bottom of the ship, and outdoor attractions are added to the top leader decks. That includes water slides, roller coasters, floating bars, and sometimes even an extremely large giraffe. Now, slowly, the ship is getting ready for its big moment. Float out. It's when all the ship's workers, engineers, and designers come together to watch their ship finally touch water for the first time and actually float. For some vessels that were built in an indoor dry dock, it's also the first time they see sunlight as they exit the shipyard in quite a spectacular way. The ship then goes on sea trials, usually lasting 1 to 3 days. There, officers and representatives from insurance companies test the vessel's seaworthiness, do some daring maneuvers, and just get used to the ship's navigational abilities overall. After some finishing touches back at the shipyard, the brand new vessel gets filled with crew members from around the world. The ship then makes its way to its home port, where passengers will be waiting to board in about 7 days. This short trip is often called a shakedown voyage, as crew members scramble to get the ship ready and cleaned up for passengers. Now comes the big finale. With often heavy news coverage and marketing hype, the brand new cruise ship arrives in its new home port for the first time. There, it might even be welcomed by enthusiastic locals and onlookers. Once the ship arrives, the often glamorous official naming ceremony begins. Cruise lines usually get famous celebrities or royalty to be the ship's godmother that blesses the vessel and smashes a bottle of champagne on its hull. The superstition goes if the bottle doesn't break, it's bad luck. Now, while researching, we came across this interesting video of the official naming ceremony of the Costa Concordia, the disgraced cruise ship that ended up looking like this. Just watch as the godmother attempts to smash the champagne bottle. Make of that what you will. But let's suppose the champagne bottle does smash, the cruise ship is officially named, and passengers make their way onto the vessel. This officially marks the end of the construction phase of a cruise ship and the start of a spectacular journey around the globe. We hope you found this video informative. If you did, please consider subscribing for more weekly traveling content or check out some of our other videos linked below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, keep cruising.
That was fascinating. One, how many people were involved in building it, and two, the fact that there are only not one, not two, not three, but 4 companies that do the majority of the cruise building.
And the thing came up too is, we have Fincantieri, other companies that actually build cruise ships. There are about 4.
Right.
Usually over in Europe. The thing is, there's actually, if you've heard of American Cruise Lines, they sail within the U.S. And what they do is they're actually owned by the Robertson family. And they also have Chesapeake Shipbuilding too.
Okay.
They build their own ships too. They build ships for other people. They build small ones, of course, but it's been a family thing for a long time, and just fantastic that they build their own ships. Of course, with their ships, they're not huge like some of these mega ships are.
Right.
But it's really such a great, it's just a fascinating thing how they do it. It takes usually a couple of years. And they really go above and beyond as far as the whole safety issues too, as far as, they really, it's a new high level people don't realize either.
And it was interesting in the end where they mentioned that, I don't know what happened to that ship, but that every once in a while there is a ship that doesn't actually get the bottle cracked and everything. So then there's that possible bad luck if that doesn't happen.
It doesn't. The thing is with the Costa Concordia, the problem is it hit ground and realized it. It was a very, very sad thing. Came up with Costa Cruises. Wow. Very sad, because the thing is, it really came back to, I think, the captain of that ship wasn't really paying attention, and it hit. And the thing is, they didn't really. They should have gotten people off the ship immediately. They didn't do it. Right. Some people lost their lives, unfortunately, and of course, they actually, I think, did with the captain of that ship. He wasn't really driving the ship as he should be. But once again, too, as they put protocols, because now with every cruise line going out there, they actually have ties with their corporate office, so that you see how the ship is actually navigating. So someone comes up and they let them know. But it was so sad with the Costa Concordia hit ground and people passed away. They should have gotten them off, and they weren't that far from. But it's just a really sad situation. I did not realize that the champagne bottle didn't crash.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either until that particular report came in and all in that way. But like we've said, good ship does happen, and there's all kinds of amazing things that go in, particularly the way that these ships are built and all along those lines. So I'm actually going to bounce off and let you do the closeout as you oftentimes elegantly do, and maybe have some other news items that are going on. But definitely that was just fascinating to see how much details goes into building a cruise ship.
Right. But even with the putting the coin in, it's always like a big tradition with cruise lines. They do that. And as far as other things that come up, of course, with cruise lines, they really are pushing forward as far as sustainability, because what they're doing is, for a couple of years, they've been really working very hard on cutting down the food waste, beyond completely eliminating plastic straws. You don't see plastic straws on cruise ships. They don't give you plastic straws. I think it's great. They really stepped up in those areas for the past probably 5-6 years, which is great. And something too is we really have, like I said, really good sustainability efforts, which is great as far as what they're doing, because something just came up too with Royal Caribbean. They made some announcements. What they're doing too is they've got some things they're working on now too, and they really have been really extending the ocean scope as far as climate monitoring. And they actually extended their investment in Ocean Scope, which is an open source data program that provides scientists critical information for the study of the climate and ocean conservatory. And they just announced this 4-year extension was just announced on World Oceans Day, which is actually yesterday. World Oceans Day was yesterday. So that was a nice announcement too. And it really continues with their collaboration of with key partners and Earth Science, Atmospheric Earth Science, NASA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And they're really, really working hard on this too, more than ever. And with them too, it goes back to with Royal Caribbean's 4 cruise ships. They're really, really focusing on passenger education too. And they're working really hard on that too. So that just came up yesterday, a big announcement. Once again, it fit in perfectly with National Oceans Day too. Something else is we see different partnerships and with different cruise lines, what they do is Explore Journeys, which is part of the MSC group, is launching their first ship this summer in July, the Explorer One, and they're high-end luxury. What they did was Explore Journeys is actually set to debut the world's first Rolex boutique at sea on their Explorer One. That just came out this week. And once again, it goes back to if you want to buy a Rolex on a cruise ship, you can actually do that now with this new partnership that Explorer Journeys just announced, because they will actually debut the first world's Rolex boutique at sea on the Explorer One. And that really is really fun because once again, cruise lines partner with different companies and they have different chefs on board. You can pick and choose what you want to purchase, but this just kind of came up yesterday. And something else too, as far as restaurants, we have a new ship coming out, of course, in January. Royal Caribbean's Icon of Seas. She's going to be actually the largest cruise ship ever built, period. And what they did was they just announced some new dining options. They've got their Empire Supper Club. It's going to be located in Central Park, which is a beautiful area. And it's going to have 8-course dining. They also have another place. It's a 12-seat private experience called the Celebration Table, I think, but just different options too, because once again, sometimes people think, well, buffets. We have buffets. Of course, we have specialty restaurants. We also have main dining, and they give you a lot of flexibility there too. You've got beautiful places to dine outdoors, which is great too. And with the cuisine, it's really high end, and you've got choices to really select if you want, as far as where you want to dine, what time you want to eat, and so many different choices. Yes, we do have some specialty restaurants that would involve an extra fee, but once again, if you want to splurge a bit for one night, maybe try and do that. I've done that myself. It's definitely worthwhile. But once again, there's so many different dining options. And if you want to dine outside by the ocean, you can do that. Of course, you got specialty dining. You've got entertainment that also sometimes would include different options too, as far as dining too, and just beautiful areas to really experience when you're on a cruise ship too. And like I said, the biggest thing that I think people really be aware of is the sustainable issues that cruise lines are doing now more than ever. They really gone above and beyond as far as reaching that net zero emissions by 2050. Most cruise lines are already working at it very, very hard. And with the new MSC Eurobila, that's one great example. Other cruise line ships are actually going into that LNG, liquefied natural gas, rather than using just general fluid, because once again, it does save different things in the ocean, which is great. And something else that I want to commend, of course, the MSC Foundation, which is part of the MSC group, has a really fantastic program they're working on too. And they just, I mentioned in a previous episode, what they did was they just planted 3 coral trees at Ocean Cay. Ocean Cay is actually part of their private out island that they actually leased from the Bahamian government. And they did the lease for 100 years. They paid the Bahamian government $100 million. What they did was, it was an island that was in the Bahamas. It was owned by a manufacturing plant. The manufacturing plant left, and it was horrible. It's such bad shape. They had to tow away 1,500 tons of scrap metal. The sea life was dead. The trees were dead. It was horrible. What they did was, with MSC, they actually invested $400 million to really get that island back up in shape. They planted 75,000 trees. They actually had to get away the dead trees, etc., and they had to tow away the scrap metal. But once again, they've done such a phenomenal job. I was actually there for the christening of their one ship in 2021. And then, like I said, that's where they actually just planted those 3 coral trees. They plan to plant more coral trees there too. And once again, with coral life, it really is a way to really build the coral life too with these coral trees. People are not aware of it, and they're really stepping beyond. And that's really one thing I think is wonderful at MSC Foundation. And I will be writing about that later. Something else that's coming up too is, we've mentioned Brightline trains in the past. That is the high-speed train that's been around for a couple of years now. And they offer high-speed train service from Miami, a little bit down south and up to Fort Lauderdale, but they are extending it to be actually offering their high-speed train services up to Orlando, I think by this summer. And I'm actually going to have a chance to actually take a Brightline train this next week before I start a really fantastic conference called the World Travel Expo. And I got invited to be on the Brightline train, so I'll be taken to their area in Miami and then take their Brightline train up to Fort Lauderdale and come back. So I'm really excited because we did share a previous video about it. It's very high-end trains, high speed, very luxury, beautiful. It's not just taking another train. So I'm really excited to finally be able to see it myself, and I will be sharing more about that when I get back. So once again, it goes back to different things coming up in the cruise industry, also travel, things tying to travel, because once again, too, if you're planning on going between Fort Lauderdale and Miami, one option would be to take a Brightline train, because sometimes, there's so many choices as far as break and sail. We think about cruise line ports, of course. Originally, when the cruise industry really revved up, it was sailing out of Port Miami. Then, of course, we saw growth with Fort Lauderdale, Port Everglades, which is great. Another thing that came up to the 1990s was sailing out of Port Canaveral. And then we have different places, of course, Atlanta, Georgia, also, of course, out of California. Seattle is a great port area for going up to Alaska, besides Vancouver. And now with a lot of cruise lines actually basing ships out of New York, including the MSC Meraviglia, more choices. But something that just came up again this week is, as far as the busiest port right now, the U.S. is actually Port Canaveral. I've seen a lot of Port Canaveral a long time ago, but what's good too is if you want to, you actually can fly into Orlando, and Port Canaveral is about an hour away. It's great to be able to sail out of Port Canaveral because it's got such beautiful areas too. So definitely keep that in mind too. Actually, it's the fastest growing port, which is kind of surprising to people, because with the port areas in Port Miami, they're building new terminals. With Port Everglades, they built new terminals too. But once again, with Port Canaveral, which is outside Orlando, it's an option to think about if you want to take a ship out of Port Canaveral. A lot of more choices too. Anything else? But once again, I really appreciate you joining me today on Good Ship Happens. And I'll be sharing more, of course, in my next week's episode. But definitely keep in mind the wonderful things that cruise lines are doing as far as sustainability, new options out there, where you want to sail from, what you want to do, restaurants, entertainment, great ways to really, really see the ocean. Once again, to celebrate, of course, World Oceans Day, which took place yesterday, and it will be taking place again next year on the 8th. It takes place on the 8th of the year every year. So another way to kind of recognize what the cruise is doing as far as sustainability too. Yes.
No, great show, amazing show as always. I know you've talked about sustainability and all along those lines, so I thought that whenever you're ready, we'll end with Dr. Sylvia Earle and what she was doing. We've had that on before, so I thought that would be a good way to close out this particular episode and all along those lines. But another amazing show. We've definitely learned about the cruise industry, the importance of the cruise industry, and even how those fascinating cruise ships are built. And I didn't know that they cost that much money. I knew they cost a lot, but I didn't know it was that kind of money that was involved in all in that space, but it was definitely a whole lot of money that is spent
Yes.
on building those cruise ships and all in that kind of way. But
Yes.
definitely, if you're interested in it, whenever you tell me, we'll hit the Dr. Sylvia Earle spot and we'll wrap it up and all in that kind of way. But another fascinating Good Ship Happens, because as you say, good ship happens on a regular basis.
It does. But let's go to Dr. Sylvia. She is fantastic. Oh my gosh.
I'm Dr. Sylvia Earle, a marine biologist, oceanographer, explorer, and I'm passionate about the protection of this blue planet. I grew up next to the ocean in the Gulf of Mexico, and I've witnessed how much the ocean has changed and how marine life has been endangered. But I know there is still time to help the ocean, which is why I was drawn to the Aponte family's sustainability mission. Explorer Journeys has a genuine ambition to connect people with the wonders of the sea, its marine life, its communities, spiritually, physically, and intellectually. We share the same values and have the same objectives to deepen people's relationship with the ocean, to explore, protect, and restore. Explorer Journeys calls it the ocean state of mind, a sensibility that will ensure the protection of this precious blue planet. Through my foundation, Mission Blue, we're working on ocean conservation, inspiring hope with champions across the world. Beginning with my extraordinary role as godmother to Explorer One, we will be heralding a meaningful collaboration between myself, Mission Blue, and Explorer Journeys and the MSC Foundation towards preserving and restoring the world's oceans, the blue heart of the planet.